Hello, welcome to Jazz Is
Jazz's
MasterClass series
at the National Jazz Museum at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem.
I am Sekou McMillan, the curator of special projects.
My name is Albert Marquez, Zach O'Farrell.
My name is Shirazette Titten.
And we are in conversation with the legendary Bertha Hope. Jazz could only have happened here in America.
The key to everything was the radio.
So this world is too dense. 15 minutes isn't enough to cover it all.
Are you ready? I am.
Dizzy was Dizzy. I was very fortunate to hang out with him and Tio. He was funny, he was good, but he was a genius.
Let's talk about the birth of Afro Cuban jazz.
Well, the daddy of Afro Cuban jazz was Mario Bausa. He was a saxophonist with the Cuban Symphony, and he came to New York. And his philosophy was, or his idea, I want to put jazz together with my music. In 1937, he sent for his brother-in-law, Machito, in Cuba. Those days you didn't fly, you took the boat, you came. And Machito got here and started singing with other local groups, Alberto Isnaga, Siboney. Well, Mario Bausa said, I want to do this. I want to put a band together and call it the Afro Cubans. And I want to blend Latin music with jazz. So in 1941, they formed Machito and his Afro Cubans. In 1943, Mario saw his dream come true. He composed a tune called Tanga.
Tanga.
That was the beginning. And it became their theme song. Part of that band was a young musician who used to sight read. He could read music, and he could be here and he'd look at that music sheet and he'd know it. His name was Ernest Anthony Tito Puente. That was in 1941. It lasted about 6-7 months. Because in December 8th, war was declared on Japan. For December 7th, we had Pearl Harbor. And Tito Puente was drafted. In 1943, Machito was drafted. So we brought Polito Galindez and Machito's sister. Show you how history started to change. We brought Graciela Perez, which was Machito's sister. She became the singer. Never seen before. I mean, you had female groups in Cuba, not in Puerto Rico. And I don't know if they had them in other countries, which I don't know. In Cuba, you had La Ona Caona, all females. But in this country, now you're going to have the first female singer to front a Latin band. Her name was Graciela. And Polito Galindez came from Puerto Rico. He became the lead singer. Machito got hurt in the army and came back. Meanwhile, Mario Bausa was experimenting. They was bringing out all these tunes. They brought Miguelito Valdez into the fold to do recordings. Popularity started coming up. Let's not jump the gun. Still had Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy and Mario were together in the Cap Calloway band. And Dizzy always Dizzy was Dizzy. I was very fortunate to hang out with him and Tio. And he was funny, he was good, but he was a genius. He knew what he wanted. And they did Tintindeo. Now I can name some of the tunes that when he brought Chano Pozo, the jazz bands didn't like it. They used to call it, you playing that tom-tom music. Dizzy would say, Don't forget, music was changing. You had Cuban music. That was the bop scene. You had Charlie Parker. You had Miles Davis. Everybody was experimenting with different things. Even though Dizzy was part of Cuba, he still was playing that Latin music. Yeah, Manteca, Tintindeo, recordings that Chano was a composer to. Nagüe, different things. Chano composed for everybody. That's how great he was from Cuba. Most important, the music came from the mother country, Africa.
Exactly.
That's where the music, the Afro Cuban movement was unbelievable. There was a guy called Norman Granz. I worked for him. Multi-millionaire. He believed in the Afro Cuban movement. He recorded all the Machito songs on Mercury. He owned record companies, which later on I was fortunate to co-produce and bring those recordings out on the Machito. But he believed in blending Afro-Cuban music and jazz together. He hires a young musician called Chico O'Farrell, trumpet player from Cuba, great composer, great writer. He says, I want you to write a suite on Afro-Cuban music, which you guys both have now. And it was called the Afro-Cuban Suite. Who's in it? Charlie Parker, Machito, Buddy Rich, Flip Phillips. I mean, this was jazz and Afro-Cuban music together. Unheard of. It blew everybody's mind. It blew Stan Kenton's mind. This was a big band. Stan Kenton was the innovator. This guy was ahead of his time. And he said, what the hell is that? As a matter of fact, he had his arranger, Pete Rugolo, write a lush version and a swinging version of a tune called Machito. He dedicated a tune on Machito. Plus, he took the Peanut Vendor, which is what opened music in 1929 for everybody, for the Latin crowd. Afro-Cuban was separate. That's in 1941. But the Peanut Vendor opened everything. The whole country said, what is that?
It went mainstream, huh?
Well, the clave. Pum, 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 pum. That's where the clave came. People never heard of it. In 1929, the RKO Palace, it blew everybody's mind. Now, that tune, Louis Armstrong recorded it, Duke Ellington recorded it, they assimilated and they wanted to be part of that music. So you're talking about marriages. You know, this is how things started developing. That young drummer that I was talking about, Mr. Puente, he loved jazz. And in all his 130 recordings, there's always a jazz tune in it. And even though he was drafted in the Navy, he was a sight reader. He knew how to learn how to arrange and everything because you had all these big band folks that were in the Navy that were part of his crew. Tito was a bugler, but he knew how to write.
That's great.
So, I mean, all these things were unbelievable.
It was an inevitable
Oh, yeah.
evolution of this Afro-Cuban jazz.
You and I are going to get married. You're kidding. I mean, it's inevitable. Those two, they love each other. People, and that's how people saw it. They said, wow, these two, wow, look at this. Wow, look, this goes with this. Wow, this. It's like rum and Coca-Cola. It's a great drink. Rum is a great drink. Coca-Cola, when you mix it together, you got a Cuba Libre.
Even better.
That's even better. So This is how things started developing. Plus the radio. Don't forget, the key to everything was the radio. And the theaters, the Apollo, the Savoy Ballroom. They still showcase these bands. And then when you talk about Afro Cuban music and everything else, in 1949, 47, 48, 40, a nightclub opens up called the Palladium
Palladium.
on 53rd Street and Broadway. Mind you, on 51st Street, 52nd Street and Broadway, another club was opening up called Birdland. So you had your jazz musicians, and now you had your Latin musicians. They didn't have to go downtown to La Conga, because in Harlem, you had the Park Palace and the Park Plaza. One was upstairs, one was downstairs. These were all the Latin bands. The black bands, the jazz bands, you went to the Savoy, you went to S'more's Paradise, you went to the Apollo to see theater, shows. So you were saturated with so much music. You said, where do I go now? There were millions of clubs. Downtown, you had La Conga, you had Birdland, you had Pop City, you had the Royal Roost. I have recordings of all these places. I got to remember all of them. I have a live recording of Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo, 1947, a year before he died, at the Royal Roost doing Manteca.
Wow.
The other advantage, what I said, was the radio. The radio got to transmit a lot of this music from different clubs, except the Palladium.
How come?
Max Hyman was a guy that he didn't believe in it. That's another story. But the China Doll, so Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez, they played with Jose Cabello. I have live recordings of that. You had different clubs, the Conga. This was their way of getting the music out to the public. Ben Massik's Riverside Plaza, Ben Massik's Countryside. I mean, these are all different clubs. Transmitting Machito, transmitting Dizzy Gillespie, the jazz clubs. All these was there. See how the marriage is getting there?
Great times, huh?
Well, Birdland. Now the other advantage you had with Birdland, jazz groups will walk 50 feet, climb up the stairs and go up to the Palladium. Cal Jader, I don't know if you've heard of Cal Jader. He played with George Sherry. He played vibes. When he walked up the stairs, he saw this young timbalero, Mr. Puente, playing vibes, who was the first to play vibes in Latin music. He says, I'm going to play those. And he became a great vibe player. But Tito was the first to play vibes in Latin music. Lionel Hampton played it in jazz. Xavier Cugat played marimbas in Hollywood.
So, Joe, which clubs do you think contributed to this Afro-Cuban jazz craze in Harlem?
In Harlem in itself, I would say, besides the Park Palace and the Park Plaza, in Black Harlem, I would say the Savoy Ballroom and possibly S'more's Paradise and other small clubs. These venues were all over the place. And it was nothing for these guys, like I said about the jam sessions, that these guys to sit in with each other and try things out. Dizzy walking into your nightclub, a small place, I'm having a drink. Dizzy takes out his trumpet and Chano Pozo's there and they start banging, here comes so-and-so. Anything was possible in those days because there were so many clubs and so many theaters to experiment. I'm not saying that the Palladium was definitive. Palladium was downtown 53rd Street and Broadway, but you had other clubs downtown,
Mhm.
that especially the jazz clubs. Now there's I know about Berlin, but I don't know outside of the Royal Roost and Bop City, which were jazz clubs downtown. I would guess a lot of that music went uptown to Harlem. I would
And
think.
with the radio, right? Going back to
And
the
the
popularity
radio
of the
back and
radio,
forth.
accepting it
Hey,
also.
wow. Talia, did you hear this on the radio? No, wow. It came from Small's Paradise. You're kidding. Man, we got to go there. You know. Plus the radio played these things and it was live.